But it does like face the highway, so it is good real estate. So I mean, hoping in 15 years it's still bankable.
The process of the nonprofit
Oh,
helping
yeah.
you guys out. And when you say they helped you out, break down a little bit, like how much did they contribute versus what you guys put in versus the bank or however that works?
Well, they didn't put any money in, but they helped with the process of like doing all the paperwork and everything for us.
Okay.
Because we wouldn't be able to do any of that stuff.
Right. It's real complicated.
Yes. I mean, I think eventually we would have figured it out, but it would have took way too long. And like I said, because of them, we got Nixon Peabody to do pro bono. And that would have been a whole nother story because they had to deal with our landlord. And if you dealt with our landlord, he's a little like out there. Mm-hmm. So just going back and forth with him on like making a payment agreement was just like crazy. Mm-hmm. He kept going back and forth like, no, I want this, I want that, and I want this, you know. And he was also calling tenants throughout this whole process, which our lawyers kept telling him, stop calling tenants, asking them how much we're going to pay you. Like, these are what the lawyers are for, you know?
Yeah.
And then tenants would keep picking up the phone and talking to him. We're like, stop doing it. Stop talking to him.
Yeah.
You don't know how much we have. Like, just stop. We're trying to make a deal. But yeah, so all that happened during COVID. So there was a new program, and I don't even know what it's called because this was like, the program doesn't exist anymore anyway. But it was like a new program that the city had on helping tenants buy their buildings. And it was like a small fund. So they were giving us like 1.9 million for our building. And then their justification was like, well, it's rent stabilized. So obviously it's not worth as much money because, you know all your tenants are rent stabilized tenants. We're like, okay, fine. There was another private foundation that I guess like chip in sometimes when like the cash is a little low to buy the whole building. And they were going to give like the other little bit of it. And we were trying to purchase for 2.6 million. So they were going to give like the other little change that we had. So like I said, that happened right before COVID. COVID happened. Everything stopped. The money got wiped away. The program disappeared. Never repaired. Never reappeared. It just disappeared. And we're just like, everything closed down. I don't know if you remember COVID. Yeah. Everything shut down. Nobody was answering any emails. No one was talking to anybody. Gosh. It was just like.
This was the middle of the process.
Yes.
Oh my.
This was like literally after we got word, this is the money we're going to give you.
Oh my gosh.
And then we went to the landlord, like, okay, we have this amount of money. And then it just stopped.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, we were just like, okay, what are we going to do? And we're like, well, we just have to sit around and wait because it's COVID. And I think it was maybe like 6-7 months in until when the conversation started back up. And we're like, well, do we even have money? Because like that thing went away, you know? And then the foundation was like, well, it's not that big of a jump. So we'll just give you the rest of the money that you need to like.
Dang.
And that was 2.8 million.
Wow.
Yes. So we're like, oh, great. Then it took another process of going back and forth with our landlord and like what he wants, what we want. And in the middle of that, because he was still trying to not sell it to us. Now I want to stress he could not sell it because of that housing case. That housing case stopped him. Mm-hmm. No one wanted to touch the building with it being rent stabilized.
And there were violations.
There were violations and everything.
Repairs.
But it being rent stabilized, they would have to take over that building as a rent stabilized building. And they wanted it destabilized. And I saw the pictures. It looked a lot nicer.
Yeah. That's usually what it is. I mean, it's just the way that I see it is like community owning.
Yeah.
Having like a purpose attached to your building. Like it's something to fight for, but some people just don't want that.
No, but there was also another problem, which I left out. So she lived under a tenant that kept, he was a...
Well, like tap dancing? And
no, he was weird. Well, I hate saying weird. That's the wrong word.
He had his quirks.
He had his quirks. And he was a germaphobe, which is fine. But like sometimes he'll be in the hallway and like all his groceries will be like out on the floor. And he'll be like putting stuff in like one by one. And what he would do on purpose, he would flood his apartment and it would, I don't know why, he would flood his apartment and it would go down into her apartment.
It's a bit further than a quirk. That sounds like some criminal activity.
Mm. And then he would also like throw stuff out, like garbage out the window, So to be honest with you, he actually ended up moving out. To honest, he was a liability.
Professional upstairs neighbor.
Yes. So he did move out, thank God. Like I said, because he was a liability.
Yeah.
So that would have been a headache that we didn't want to deal with. But yeah, she lived underneath him. So she had to deal with all that. And then
Right.
they did have a kid. The floors are very thin. They did have a kid that would like stomp and like, go crazy at night and, so.
So was that like the biggest hurdle you had tenant-wise that you had to deal with? Like
Yes.
This guy?
Yes.
Okay, because that's another thing that people would have to realize is like, you're going to have to deal with these people.
Oh.
You're just going to kick them out?
It got worse too with him. So he actually ended up working for the landlord. So we were confused because we're like, how do you have him working for you, cleaning the place when he's the one creating most of the garbage? But
The irony.
yeah, but he was using him in his housing case, so he was testifying against us.
Bro,
Yes.
no way.
So his cousin, I think, was in that building before it was rehab, before all the tenants who are there now moved in. So they knew how the building looked like. So he was using that as leverage on his lawsuit. So he was like, I need you to testify that the building looked this way back then before all these people moved in.
And what did he stand to gain from it?
To say that the building had a huge improvement so he can destabilize the building.
What did the tenant have to gain from it?
Oh, him?
Yeah.
Oh, he was going to be fine and not touched. Everyone's going to be evicted and he was going to be fine.
Oh, okay. So he pulled a Fredo Corleone. He just
Yeah.
turned on the family.
Yes.
That's
So
wild.
then,
That is a wild turn.
I would have so much conversations with this guy. Like, it was just like, I had to explain to him, like, because he was like, oh. So our landlord wanted him into our tenant meetings. He couldn't be in our tenant meeting. I was like, you can't be in our tenant meeting because you work for the landlord. And a lot of people didn't know. I mean, if they see this podcast, they would know that he was on the lawsuit. Like, I left that out talking to some of the tenants because, I feel like, I don't think he would be harassed, but I feel like a lot of people would have been pissed off.
So he was on both sides of the lawsuit.
Yes. So
This guy's got issues.
I know. So then I had to explain to him, like, no matter who won, he still would win. Because if we own the building, he's still here. We're not kicking him out. Mm-hmm. If the landlord wins, he still got a good deal. So he was like, no, I need to be part of the meeting. I was like, you do not need to be part of the meetings. And I was like, whether you're a part of the meetings or not, you still gain if we win. Yes, it was a very uncomfortable situation, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you guys don't have to deal with that anymore.
No.